Hiya, and welcome back to Adastra. Can't really think of anything to say, so let's just hop right in. I follow Alexios quietly through the halls, really enjoying the architecture of the palace for the first time. We enter the main hall, and Alexios stands in the sunlight pouring in through the archways. Aren't the mornings beautiful here? This is the best time to do work in the gardens. I'd say we have a good 3 hours before it gets too hot. We start walking out into the gardens when I'm suddenly struck by something odd. So, you just said we have 3 hours? Yes. Well, how long is an hour here? The same. Oh, we use the same minutes and hours and stuff? That didn't seem possible. Alexios thinks, rubbing the spot above his left eyebrow. Well, the lingua is a complicated device. It's parental text, so it's something that we don't really understand at all. But what we do know is that it translates language in a way that offers the best understanding possible for the host. Alexios crouches by a pillar, examining the ivy growing around its surface. I used a measurement of time specific to the wolves and their language, and the linguist simply translated it to a measurement you'd better understand. The small cat chuckles. It's something I've given up on understanding myself. It's not perfect and can create really confusing situations, especially when it comes to certain words and numbers. Oh. I see Alexios single out a small white flower growing at the base of the pillar before he plucks it out and sets it to the side. I start to wonder if I should maybe learn the language. The lingua is impressive and all, but it doesn't seem like it's very specific. Alexios grins. Don't think too much about it. Just try to remember that doesn't mean everything actually is the same. There are 19 hours in a day on Adastra, which I imagine is at least somewhat different compared to your own planet. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is pulling up some weeds. The drones do a good job of watering and pest control, but they often miss smaller weeds like these. I crouch at the pillar next to Alexios, searching through the ivy for weeds to pull at the base. So, there are 19 hours in a day here? Yes. It's a bit shorter than back home. Oh, I get that. There are 30 hours in a day where I'm from. You get used to it after a few weeks, though. I prefer it, actually. I turn my attention back to the pillar and suddenly find myself staring right at a strange crab-like thing sticking to the stone. At first I wonder if it's a carving of some kind, since it's so big. But as I look closer, it moves, and I realize that it's a massive living spider. The next thing I know, I'm rolling away from the pillar action movie style before popping back up to my feet. Oh my god! What is it? A spider thing! I'm standing a good 10 feet away from the pillar now, but I can still see the massive spider. Its thick legs span out to the width of a clock. Yo, that's a giant fuck you spider right there. I swear, that is a giant fuck you spider. I shiver. Ugh. Oh, I see. I stare at him. How's that funny? I'm sorry. They're very startling when you first encounter them. Alexios walks up to the spider and starts making shooing motions at it. Even from here, I can see its black, beady eyes. It doesn't move at all, choosing to sit motionlessly on its pillar. Adastra arachnids and insects are disturbingly large compared to the ones on my home moon. I look around, suddenly feeling like I'm in danger, imagining giant wasps descending from the skies. Oh my god. Okay, I am actually scared of wasps, so like... No. No, like, paper wasps are bad enough, I swear. Alexios starts to look more frustrated as the spider refuses to be intimidated by his limp-wristed swipes. He's doing gay hands. I didn't see that, but I did gay hand. Nothing in the gardens is dangerous, though, and they're needed to balance the ecosystem. The creature's venom is far too mild to cause much more than an inchy bump, if it bites at all. Alexios gives another weak swipe at the spider, and it takes the opportunity to bolt up his arm so fast that it becomes a blur before stopping on his face. It's a face hugger. For a moment, we both stand there. Oh my god. For a moment, we both stand there in shock as it clings to him like a face hugger. I have to see it now. Let me find an image of a face hugger online real quick. god, I can't use most of these. Here we go. I found what I'm looking for. It's just horrible. I'm probably just getting my computer fires so well. Alien face hug. Oh geez. Add image. Go. There we go. And let me just... We both stand there in shock as it clings to him like a face hugger. Then, by Colin, get it. Should I leave that there for a bit? Like, should I leave the face hugger there for a bit? Or should I, like, get it off him? He dances around in place for a moment, as I simply watch in fascinated horror. Finally, he shakes his head hard, and the spider runs down his front to scuttle across the ground and into some bushes. Alexios heaves for breath for a moment, trembling. Despite myself, I have to laugh in amazement at what I just saw. Why are you laughing? Sorry, it was just so surprising. And you were so full of yourself until... I chuckle again. Well, it surprised me! He shivers, rubbing his shoulder. Hold up. He needs it? Like, he needs the face hugger? Okay, let me bring it back. Ah, fuck. What'd it do? Okay, let me make sure that the reaction images are still there. Indeed it is. I'll just leave that there for a bit. He shivers, rubbing his shoulders. There's honestly nothing to be afraid of when it comes to those, but it was right on me and the way they move. He shudders again. And you just stood there and watched. I mean, what could I have done? If that had happened to me, I would have jumped in the pond. Alexios sighs and I see his fur start to flatten down again. Then he also chuckles. Well, I was about to. Anyway, let's get back to work. If you see another spider, just work around it. For the next hour, we move from pillar to pillar, cleaning up the unwanted weeds. I'm way more vigilant now, checking every pillar for spiders before we start. Luckily, we don't come across anymore. After a while, we finally sit on a bench under some trees, and Calm floats out a few platters of tiny pastries that remind me of quiches. Those are followed by glasses of cold, green, vegetable-tasting drinks. It's delicious. So, can I ask where you're from? Very far away, even further than your home. What brought you here? The cat sighs and pauses with the pastry halfway to his mouth. It's a bit complicated, but I was here as a sort of ambassador. I arrived just as the stretch drive to Paletion occurred. Oh, what was that? Alexio shrugs. Well, for whatever reason, the Romanus stopped supplying the wolves with stretch drive power when the Emperor died. They're starbound right now, so they can't show me back to my planet. The situation between the wolves and their parents is worrying, and we don't know how long the wolves will be without the stretch, so my people sent their own ship to retrieve everyone in Adastra. But I, missed it. Missed it? Alexios frowns, looking embarrassed again. Well, I slept in and missed the departure. Wow, really? I mean, it happens to the best of us, no? I guess. Why didn't they wait for you? That's kind of messed up they just leave. When using stretch tech, time is important. Everything runs on a specific schedule, so if you miss it, you miss it. And they're certainly not going to send one out for one person. Wow, didn't you have an alarm clock or someone to wake you? Trust me, it was a series of many unfortunate events that led to that happening. The main one being that even though I woke up with enough time to reach the starport, I got lost in Adastra City's terrible public transportation system. I was running from platform to platform, wolves all around me trying to touch me because they've never seen a cat before, and I could barely read the signs because, well, for my species, water comes from the eyes when we're stressed, so. Yo, he's crying. He was crying. Oh, you were crying? You know what that is? Yeah, my species does it too. He looks away and I can see the insides of his ears turn red. Ah, I did not know that. It's a shared trait among us and the wolves, but I don't know many others that do it, aside from the Chemians. Anyway, I decided to use my situation to continue my work and build a relationship with the Imperial family. So I became Cassius's pet. Alexios' situation doesn't sound all that different from mine, even though the reasons for us getting here were very different. When does the next ship come? Alexios shrugs. Years. At least one a decade, but sometimes more. I'm hoping within the next few years, though. I'm sorry to hear that. It's not the worst life, and the wolves treat me well enough. We do have a special relationship. With Cassius? Between us and the wolves, unlike the other siblings, our parents originated in the same galaxy. Though our views are very different, there's a bond there. Alexios brushes his paws together. Are you done? Yeah. Calm, we're finished. And with that, the platters and glasses float away. I'm starting to get used to all of this. But, Marco, was it? Yeah. I'm sorry, I guess we skipped introductions. You already know me as Alexios, but you can call me Alex. Hello, Alex. Hello, Marco. So now we're no longer pretending that you're not so sapient anymore. Where are you from? Tell me about yourself. That gives me some pause. While he's been really nice to me so far, I know I can't just reveal everything to Alex, so I settle on being vague like he was. Well, I'm from far away, but less far away than you. I'm a primate. I see. Are you important among your people? No, I'm just a student. Oh, do you know why Amicus chose you then? I think he just chose me at random. I just happened to be where the uplift occurred. Alexios blinks, then laughs. That's just like Amicus. Yeah, it is actually. But I guess it makes sense to choose a commoner if he wants to unite the abandoned children again. Oh yeah? I decide that shifting the conversation away from me is a good tactic for now. Yeah, didn't he explain that to you? Maybe a little. He didn't tell me all that much. Don't take it personally. Amicus doesn't often think ahead. Right now, the wolves are in a bit of a strange situation. Again, this is between you and me, but they've fallen behind the other siblings in terms of spread and resources. The main reason is that they don't uplift their children to similar intelligence levels as themselves. Intelligence levels? I thought they just spread their culture. Alex frowns at me. You don't know? I guess you were abandoned, but you should know that your intelligence, every child's intelligence, was uplifted by a sibling. Oh, no. Oh, no. I guess we just lost that bit of information. Well, that's not the end of their problems. These children are indentured servants in a way. In exchange for having their intelligence mostly uplifted, they have to serve the Empire until the debt is repaid. That doesn't sound good. Oh, and how long has that been going on? Well, let's just say the first successfully uplifted wolf children haven't quite finished repaying their debt. That sounds like slavery. Alex glances at me. It does, doesn't it? That's confusing to me. But if they all have these robots and stuff, why do they need sapients to be their slaves? Advanced artificial sapients are gifted by the parents. We can't build them. We're a bit spoiled here in the palace, but outside not so much. And even then, artificial sapience isn't perfect, and likely never will be. Actual thinking machines don't exist. This is why uplifted children to the same intelligence level as a sibling is important. Good ideas can come from anywhere. I guess your people don't do what the wolves do? No, we uplift our children as much as we can. This practice is isolated to the wolves. They're seen by the other siblings as harsh on their own children, and the rights of sapience in general. I see. I'm starting to see the wolves and even Amicus in a whole new light. As if reading my mind, Alex goes on. But things are changing. Amicus choosing you as his pet shows that he sees you close to an equal. But then there's Cassius. Alex's tail swishes around on the bench behind us, between us. He'd rather things stay the same, or even regress. That's why he's made a strong challenge against Amicus. There are many wolves who are unsure of the change Amicus suggests, and the proposed alliance between the wolves and the Chemians is only adding to it. Chemians? They're another sibling species, the most powerful in the galaxy, in fact. That worries a lot of people here. There hasn't been a war between siblings in over 100 years. but the last one was between the Chemians and the wolves. You can imagine what sort of problems that might create, so Cassius wanted the wolves to stay independent and in complete control of their children, is rather popular. You might wonder why I'm telling you this, but I want you to understand the empire that you're in. It will make it easier to navigate. I was in fact wondering why he was telling me all of this. Does he have some other motive that he's not telling me? I look over at him. Do you want Cassius to become emperor? I like that we can discuss a lot of things, and being a sibling allows me to have more freedom than most. But that's one thing that I should probably keep silent on. That only confuses me more, but it doesn't sound like he's on Cassius's side. Maybe Amicus and I could find an ally in him. Well, I think I would prefer Amicus if his whole thing is to treat other sapiens equally. From what I can tell, that seems to please Alex. Well, we'll find out soon enough after the trials. Alex's mood suddenly brightens. But anyway, I've really been enjoying our time together today. Like I said, it's so nice to be able to talk to someone who isn't my superior. I hope we can do this often while you're here. Yeah, of course. Wonderful. Alex raises a paw to look up at the sun, at Vita. We should keep working. It's starting to get too hot out here. For the next several hours, we work around the garden before finally moving inside to walk around the palace a bit. He points to doors for things like the throne room and communal bath, but we never go inside, and he tells me I should only do so when I'm with Amicus. Eventually, we move back to the dining room where Alexio suggests we watch the screens until our masters return. He says it will better acquaint me with the wolfish culture. It takes me a moment to realize I'm watching a sort of film starring wolves similar to Amicus. They're acting out scenarios about traveling into space and finding more sapiens. The sapien species they find are wolves in masks. I guess they don't really have CGI because every effect looks practical. It's long, boring, and the acting is overly exaggerated, like they're in a silent film. Finally, after what seems like a good 3 hours, Alex tells me that Amicus will be returning soon and that I might want to tidy up his room before he gets back. I'm relieved to cut the film short, and Alex and I part ways to go to our respective rooms. I'm surprised to see that it's already dark outside. Even with the shorter day, I guess mindlessly watching wolves overreacting to other wolves in masks took up more time than I thought. On my way through the marble halls, I pause every now and then to look at the large murals on the walls depicting everything from wolves swimming to wolves swinging swords at other canines. In the Great Hall is the largest mural, and it depicts 5 wolves. The features are flat and lack any sort of perspective, making the muzzles look a bit askew. 2 larger wolves loom over the other 3. One is white with a feminine shape, while the larger of the 2 is black and holding his paw to his chest. Around his head is a wreath. Of the 3 smaller wolves, one is also clearly feminine, while another is white. I wonder if this might be Cassius and Virginia, which would leave the remaining wolf in the middle to be Amicus. He's skinnier, and I wonder if this might be him as a child or teenager. A glowing wreath floats above his head. Ahem. I jump as someone clears their throat very loudly next to me. I turn around and find myself staring at Cato, the advisor. He looks me up and down for a moment. At least, I think he does. More silence. I open my mouth to respond, then remember what Amicus told me. I let my eyes unfocus and my mouth droop a bit. Yo. Cato's ears twitch at the sound as I make, then clears his throat again. Hello, Marco, was it? How are you enjoying your first day in the palace? I wonder if I should keep droning or if I should at least answer the question. I am technically a sapient, so I suppose it's okay if I sort of understand. Good. Left side of Cato's scarred face twitches as he waits for more, but I don't give him anything. Good. I trust that Alexio showed you around the palace. It's a bit of a stifling life behind these walls, but hopefully with time we will be able to take you out to the city. I cross my eyes a little. Oh, I like it. Yes. So where are you from again exactly? There's something more behind this wolf's words. Something there that's a little more than innocent curiosity. Big rock planet by star. Cato waits, and again, I don't say anything more. Do you have a name for the planet? Yeah. Big rock planet. Earth is now Big Rock Planet. Cato massages the left side of his forehead, looking a bit annoyed. Big rock planet with water. Cato stares. So, big rock planet with water. I nod dumbly. Cato sighs loudly and stalks off, not even bothering to end the conversation. Like I said, he is the dad of this little thing that's going on. He's just like the parent that's completely over it. Wonderful. Now I have a headache. And with that, he disappears around the corner. I decide that I did an okay job as Cato seems to think that I'm a massive idiot. I make my way quickly to Amicus's room, glad to not run into anyone else. There isn't much to do. Amicus's room is spotless, so after meandering around and smoothing the bed covers over, I choose to sit down on the sofa and wait. Despite the fact I've only been up for what's probably 10 hours, I'm exhausted. Maybe I won't have any trouble adjusting to the shorter days. I start to doze. There's a sudden clattering sound toward the door. I jump and see Amicus come in, wheeling in a tray with several plates on top of it, heaped high with food. He grins at me, and I get a feeling of relief at seeing him. Hello. I suppose Alex didn't tell you that they set these outside the door on the 15th hour. He treat you well? Yeah, he was nice. Amicus wheels the cart up to the sofa, then flops back onto it next to me, making the whole thing shake. Ugh, that was a long day. Are you okay? Amicus opens one eye at me. Barely. I had to go over maths today, and my head feels like it's going to explode. Didn't help that Balbus kept cracking me over the head with a stick when I answered wrong. Yo. Wow, that sounds harsh. Don't worry, it was nothing compared to the one you gave me. Amicus smirks, and I can't help but smile back at his teasing. He seems to have become comfortable around me with how relaxed he is. I am sorry about that. Don't be, and stop apologizing for it. Now let's wash and eat. My stomach's felt hollow since breakfast. We both go to the restroom to rinse our paws, hands, in the sink before heaping our plates with food. It's more of the same with bread and meat and olives, but there's also a good amount of other vegetables and fruit that I have a hard time identifying. Amicus shows me how to combine the fruit and cheese on the bread, and I find myself starting to like the smelly spread, as long as I ignore the smell. Compared to breakfast, Amicus really wolfs down a lot of food. He probably ends up eating about 3 times as much as me. All the while, he tells me about a scary instructor and how he punishes him way more than Cassius. Well, does he usually get the answers right? Well, yeah, but he should help me understand rather than smack my ears. That doesn't help anything unless he has the information in his stick and is bashing it into my brain somehow. Don't worry, I hate math too. Well, I'm better in other things like literature and history. Cassius is hopeless at remembering battles. Amicus flexes a bicep. And he can forget about wrestling. He could never beat me in a fight. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. So yes, he can have the maths all he wants. The trials don't involve that anyway. What are the trials you guys keep talking about? Amicus takes a big gulp of wine, gasping when he finally pulls the goblet away from his face. What Cato was considering using to decide the next emperor. Essentially 3 trials: music and dance, rhetoric, and finally, combat. And whoever wins those becomes the emperor? Well, whoever wins 2 out of 3. Combat is the last, so that if one of us wins the first 2, it won't come to that. I'm really just hoping that Cato chooses me in the next few days now that he's seen you. But if the trials do happen, you have nothing to worry about. Amicus grins at me confidently. I don't? I'm better than Cassius in at least 2 of those things, perhaps even in music and dance. You know, I'd believe you, but one thing I know about you is how overly confident you are when it comes to certain things. Why do you say that? Our entire experience on the ship, maybe? That's different. I was doing something I didn't really understand. I understand my studies, aside from maths. Amicus leans back finally, one paw on his stomach. Anyway, how was your day? Did Alex show you around? Amicus starts to grab the remaining foods to set aside on its own plate. Yeah, I've realized that there isn't much to do. Yeah, it was a bit of a bad day. I have tomorrow off from studies, though, so we can do something entertaining. Like what? Oh, I don't know. Go swimming, go to the baths, talk. You name it. Maybe eventually we can go to the city too. The city outside? Well, everything's outside. I mean, the one that I can see across the lake. Yes, that one. Adastra City, the capital of our empire. Oh, isn't it kind of small for that? I mean, it looks really nice, but it kind of just looks like an average-sized city. Amicus frowns. I think it's quite large. How big are cities on Earth? I shrug. I don't know, pretty big? Millions of people? Amicus raises an eyebrow. Millions? Yeah. I wonder if the lingua is translating everything correctly. Why? How big is Adastra? The city? Just over 5 million. The wolf population is 80 million. Oh. How many humans are there? Like 7 billion. Amicus chokes. What? Is that a lot? That's preposterous. Do you not have population control measures put in place? Well, not in most places. Amicus shakes his head. Well, you are parentless, so I guess it makes sense your species might be so misguided? Amicus seems to try very hard to choose the last word, even though he's still being very condescending. He seems to notice my annoyance, though. Well, is your species doing well? Is your planet able to sustain such a population? Sort of? I guess there are problems. Amicus strokes his chin. Well, I suppose when I become emperor, I could ask the parent about your species. The whole thing is a real mystery, but it's clear that we must have overlooked your people somehow. He smiles at me. Maybe we could even bring you into our fold again. Whoa, hang on a second. Images of Roman spaceships descending from the heavens to enslave the human race all because of me flash through my mind. You know, Alex told me about what you do to the other sapiens. It doesn't sound like something humans would want to be a part of. What did he tell you? The whole enslavement thing. Enslavement? What you do to your children. Well, that's a harsh word for it. No, it's the right word. Humans have done the whole indentured servant thing back on Earth, and it never turned out well for the servant. Amicus's ears go down for a bit. And as misguided as humans might be, we've at least abolished slavery. I notice Amicus's ears turning red. Maybe he never expected to be lectured on ethics by a human. Well, I do mean to change things a bit when I become emperor. A bit? Oh, fuck. I mean, things can't just be changed all at once. It has to be gradual. Amicus flicks his tail in annoyance at me. Listen, I agree with you. We've been trying to change the way we've treated our children for generations. My grandfather and father both worked toward this. And, well, while that's messed up and definitely wrong, I think the intelligence thing might be even worse. What intelligence thing? The grimace on Amicus's face tells me that he might already know the answer. The way you stunted intelligence in the children you uplifted. Amicus is silent for a moment. I can tell that all of this is making him very uncomfortable. I have to ask myself again how I got to this point, sitting on a sofa debating ethics with a prospective Emperor Wolf. He finally folds his arms and huffs. Again, I agree with you on all of this. I don't like the way we've treated our children. In the end, I truly feel that becoming a more compassionate and united empire will lead to a better outcome for everyone. It's going to take small steps, but understand that it's something I mean to fix. And stop saying you like I did it. I was born into this. I've come to realize how much of an open book Amicus is as a person, so I don't doubt his words. Well, as long as Cassius doesn't become emperor. Amicus snorts. Not a chance. Well, if he does, it sounds like he's going to reverse all of that. And I'm saying there's no chance of it. Wait, how much has Alex been telling you? It was a short conversation. I asked him about the Empire. I didn't, but I don't want to get Alex in trouble in case he wasn't just supposed to tell me. Cassius seems like a terrible person, by the way, and I'm not just talking about his personality. He wants to keep people enslaved. It's complicated. He's just very traditional. But again, there's no chance. I sigh at the wolf's overconfidence, but he does know his brother far better than I do. Well, I'm at least glad that I'm behind the right wolf and getting myself home. The right wolf? Yeah, I can't imagine being under your brother. Amicus glances at the plate he'd been building with food. Speaking of, I'm going to bring this to Alex in the garden. Did you want to accompany me? I run a hand through my hair, feeling the griminess from 2 days of no shower. Actually, can I use the shower while you're gone? I feel kinda gross. Oh yeah, sure. Just step in and it starts up. There's a screen on the wall that controls temperature. It has a color spectrum that you can drag a finger across. I'll figure it out. Yo, just like slide it all the way to the red. Enjoy enjoy the hell water, and converse with demons. Ah, right. I should be back by the time you're finished. And with that, Amicus balances his plate of food in his paws as he strides out of the room, leaving me to go into the bathroom. I quickly use the toilet again, suddenly glad that I don't have to use a public toilet like the ones I'd seen drawings of in my Roman history books. The shower is easy enough to understand, and the water is immediately warm and pleasant, so I don't have to bother with the temperature. There are several glass bottles of soap, and I choose the one that smells the best and give myself a quick wash. When I'm done, I grab a towel off the wall and dry off before wrapping it around my waist. Think about putting my clothes back on, but the idea of stepping back into that underwear has me hesitating. Instead, I open the door and am greeted to the sight of Amicus sitting on the edge of the bed, looking off to the side, upon his lap holding a brush. His head snaps in my direction before he immediately averts his eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean to see. I thought you'd be dressed. Hey, it's fine, I've got a towel on. Slowly, Amicus turns his gaze back to me, eyes drifting down my torso before immediately snapping back up again. I thought you hated any sort of nudity. Not really, just the genitals. Even though I don't hate it, it's just more private. Amicus seems to be staring at me, and I start to feel a little self-conscious. Is everything okay? Amicus looks away again. Sorry, I'm just not used to seeing you like that. I've only seen humans with clothing, so I just sort of imagine you to be always that way. Well, my clothes are dirty, so I was going to ask you about maybe getting some clean ones. At least until you can get me that tailor. Oh, of course. Calm. Send us some robes from storage, children's robes, please. Yes, Amicus. Thanks. Of course. I stand there awkwardly for another few seconds until Amicus seems to snap back to reality again. He holds up the brush. Anyway, I thought maybe you'd like to be groomed too? I feel it's only fair after what you did for me. Oh, well, it's only my head. All the easier for me then. Amicus grins. Well, alright. I walk over to the bed and sit with my back to the wolf. He adjusts his seating to face me more directly, then starts to run the brush gently through my hair. We sit in silence for a bit, and I start to enjoy the feeling of brushing, especially the way the firm bristles run across my scalp, giving me shivers up and down my neck. Sorry for talking so much earlier. I'm not used to being able to talk to someone. This palace is a bit lonely, so having a friendly conversation with someone other than Calm is a bit of a novelty. Amicus chuckles. That was probably why I was having so much trouble focusing on my studies today. I was so excited to come back home and speak with you. Hearing that makes me feel a little bad for the wolf. I suppose being the prospective emperor doesn't allow you to have many friends, and being in such an empty palace definitely seems lonesome. I guess this is why Alex told me basically the same thing. You're fine, and I didn't mean to be too harsh earlier. I know it's not your fault. No, I think we're on the same page on that one. All the more reason to unite against Cassius, eh? Oh! As if you'd forgotten something, Amicus's paw comes around to my side, and on his palm I see 2 purple grapes. I managed to snag a few of those off of Alexios' earrings. He wasn't too happy about that. Want one? Seriously? I take one, more out of being nice to Amicus than anything, but when I bite into it, I can't help but notice how juicy and sweet it is. Amicus talks to me with the grape in his mouth. I don't know why, but his grape earring always tastes the best. By the way, if you don't mind, I invited Alex to our outing tomorrow. Cassius is going to be away doing some speeches, and is leaving Alex behind for once. Of course not, we get along really well. I lean my head back, allowing the wolf to continue the brushing. Your hair, you call it? It's not like a wolf's fur, but it's rather nice. I smile. Thank you, Amicus. If you'd like, I can do this for you every day. I feel that's fair. I have to admit that I really like this, so I accept. Yeah, sure. Feels really nice. Here's some thumping sounds, and I imagine it's Amicus's tail wagging against the bed. So washing you, brushing you, and making you smell nice are all of my duties? Well, that and accompanying me to important meetings and public outings. But all you do during those is stand there and look civilized. Yeah, that's what you all keep telling me. This all seems pretty easy. Though there is one thing you can do for me before I go to bed. What? Well, a full body massage. I look over my shoulder at him. Or we can just stick with the other duties. I laugh and Amicus's ears come back up. He continues to brush a while longer before finally setting it aside. There, looks much better now. I gently run a hand over my hair, and I have to agree that it feels softer than it's ever felt before. But anyway, Marco, I'm looking forward to these months ahead with you, even though we started off a bit poorly. I look back at the wolf, at his earnest but tentative smile. There's He's definitely a man of contradictions. Rash half of the time, but considerate most of the time. I'm not sure what to make of him, but at this point, I feel like I can at least trust him. That's saying a lot after what he put me through. I smile back. Yeah, me too. The next day, Amicus wakes me up by gently shaking my shoulder. Hey, hey Marco, wake up. I roll over on my sofa, groggily pulling the blanket up around me as I shiver. Ugh, so cold in here. Oh, I can turn up the heat if you'd like. It's just that I tend to sweat a little when it's too warm. Could you just give me a better blanket? Of course. I'm in just my underwear, my Romanesque underwear. Last night, Amicus had shown me, a bit awkwardly, how to tie it on. While it's comfortable, it always feels a little loose, and there's a constant worry that it's just going to drop off at some point. Anyway, we should get going. Alex is probably already waiting for us. I try to rub sleep from my eyes, drawing the blanket around myself a bit more tightly. For what? We're going to the island for a picnic. You wanted something to do, didn't you? Oh yeah, right. I get up and grab my new robe off the back of the sofa. Don't bother with the shower today since we'll be swimming. Well, I will anyway. Amicus moves to the bathroom and pulls out a large glass bottle filled with the clear liquid. He pours it into the glass cap and notices me watching. Oh, would you like to try some? I suppose your species cares about dental hygiene considering your teeth looks alright. What is it? A wash that simply cleans the teeth, keeps the breath from becoming offensively odorous. Holds out the cap and I take it from him as he just pours the liquid straight into his mouth. I sniff it, and though I expected a minty smell, it's floral instead. Is this all you use to clean your teeth? Amicus switches the liquid around in his mouth for a while, then spits it into the sink. It removes any surface level debris, but you should get a deeper cleaning from a drone at least once a week. I can show you that later too if you'd like. That kinda sounds terrifying. Maybe. Honestly, you're supposed to do this every morning, but I forgot yesterday and all the excitement that we had. I lift the liquid-filled cap to my mouth, and with just a little hesitation, I pour it in. The taste reminds me of walking into a room that's just been sprayed with air freshener. Not exactly pleasant, but when I spit into the sink, I notice bits of what I assume to be plaque floating down the drain, and my mouth does feel a lot more fresh. Guess it works. Amicus seems impatient, though, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Ready, Marco? Yeah, sure. You have bathing suits or something? Like clothes for swimming? Amicus steps out of the room and into the main hallway as I follow him. At the same time, I finish tying on my robe, trying to make sure everything is correctly in place. No, we swim nude, but if you prefer to have something you could use your undergarments. I can't imagine that would be comfortable, but Alex does it. Just as he says the cat's name, I see him standing in the hall, carrying a heavy-looking basket in both arms. Okay, let me make sure that the mod is working correctly. Because, yeah. Yeah, should work. If it doesn't, then I'll just cut it short and figure something else out. Just as he says the cat's name, I see him standing in the hall, carrying a heavy-looking basket in both arms. Once he sees us, he smiles. Hello, Amicus. Hello, Marco. It's good to see you again. How are you this morning? I'm about to respond, but Amicus is already speaking. Good, good. You got all the food, Alex? Yeah. Though, are you sure it's not against protocol that I took all of this? Well, it would be if I didn't approve it. Now let's go. Alex and I follow the excited wolf's swishing tail as we head toward the front archways, an area that I haven't been to before. Ahem. I hear a familiar grunt and we all stop and turn around. Cato stands there watching us, stoic as always. Where might you three be off to? Hello, Cato. We're going for a swim. A swim? Can't exactly tell what's going on behind that visor, but the tone in his voice doesn't seem all that enthusiastic. Amicus seems to sense it too. Yes? A moment of silence goes by. You know you have combat training today, Amicus. Yes, well, but only for that part of the day. We'll be back shortly after noon. Cato's face twitches, and I can sense the disapproval coming off of him in waves. Then he turns his head slightly in my direction. You're taking the pets? I quickly fix my face into a middle distance stare. Yes, I thought we could all use a little fresh air. Cato goes on staring for a moment, and I start to believe what Amicus said about Cato not having a good mood. Finally, the old wolf turns his attention back to Amicus. Well, I have some of my own duties to take care of this morning, but I expect you to be in the amphitheater by the 11th hour. Do not be late. With that, he turns and stalks off down the hall before disappearing around a marble corner. Amicus lets out a short breath. Ugh, thought I was going to cancel our outing today. Alright, let's go before anyone else tries to stop us. Amicus quickly turns toward the archways again and leads us out into the warm morning air. You seem very eager, Amicus. Well, I haven't been swimming for weeks now, and I need a good exercise. As we walk, I notice Alex huffing and puffing, struggling with the basket, so I hold out my hand. Oh, fuck. Here, do you need help? Oh, I don't want to inconvenience you. I reach out and take the handle of his basket, and Alex doesn't resist as I pull it out of his paws. It's heavy, but not impossible to carry. I heft it in both my hands as we walk down the path toward the lake. Are you sure it's not too heavy? I'm fine, though I think someone else might be able to handle it a bit better than us, especially since I imagine it's mostly his food. Amicus's ears perk up on my pointed statement. Oh, is it heavy? That was awful. Amicus turns and yanks the basket from me, easily swinging it in one paw. Should have said something, though I'll have to give it back once we get to the shore. I'll be swimming to the island. I frown. Is it far? Well, of course you'll be taking the sightseer. What's that? Alex moves up to walk alongside me. You'll see, it's a sort of hovercraft for sightseeing, as the name implies. After a few minutes, we reach the shore where there's a small gazebo with various boats underneath it. There's also what looks like a jet ski, and next to that is just a glass box with an open top. This is what Alex and Amicus walk up to, Wolf leaning over to drop the picnic basket inside. Once he does that, he strips off his underwear and tosses it into the glass craft as well. I look away and notice Alex doing the same, his ears down as he blushes furiously. Trying to ignore the wolf, I walk up to the strange little craft, noticing that there's an open space on the side of the box that allows us to get in. The floor is glass as well, and I can see the dirt and vegetation underneath us. Race to the island! Amicus cheerfully waves at us before running into the lake, Wolf's bushy tail swishing around over his naked butt. Ugh, so inappropriate. Alex shakes his head and turns to a slanted glass panel attached to the side of the craft. He touches it, and several bright characters come to life on the screen. A few seconds later, the little glass craft levitates off the ground and starts to move over the water, albeit at a very slow pace. Wow, what is this thing? A sightseeing craft, parental tech, so it's very safe and easy to navigate. I watch as we start to float over the slightly choppy water. Amicus already about 10 meters out in front of us. He's a pretty good swimmer. Hang on, I got a comment that I didn't notice, and it was like an hour ago. Let me check this real quick. Getting noticed by all the haters. I love it. We're just slow. That's why he turned this into a race, because he knows we won't beat him, even if we're going at full speed. Sure enough, Amicus starts to widen the gap. I notice Alex's ears twitching as he navigates our craft, looking left and right while looking at the water altogether. Do you not like swimming? Oh, I hate large bodies of water. It's a bit stressful coming out here, honestly, but the island is serene, and for the most part, it makes the trip worth it. So feelings are kind of like that under my planet, too. I cringe inwardly as I almost reveal the name of my planet. It was pretty blatant, but Alex goes on like he didn't even notice. Yes, similar origins and all, but honestly, I'm a bit surprised you're doing so well yourself, or that you even decided to come out here. That comes off as a little strange to me, but I'm distracted watching Amicus get closer to the island. Maybe only about 50 meters now. I start to get an idea though. Judging by the distance between us, Amicus and the island, I feel like I might be able to beat him. I grin, then start stripping off my robe. What are you doing? We're not at the island yet. Alex flushes furiously again, looking away. I'm gonna beat him. What? I grab onto the ledge of the glass barrier and swing my legs over it. No! Alex actually tries to lunge for me, but his paw's just barely missing as I plunge into the lake. I don't have much time to think about why because I'm instantly surrounded by freezing cold water. I come up, gasping from the shock of it before I spot the direction of the island and start swimming toward it. It's been a while since I've really had a chance to swim. I'd always been pretty good at it, though, and soon enough, I get into the familiar motions of putting one arm ahead of the other while turning my head to take breaths. While this is going on, I can still hear Alex shouting behind me. But then, just as I'm feeling that I'm about to gain on Amicus, I get rammed by something heavy and furry that suddenly starts to pull me into its grasp. First, I wonder if I've been captured by some kind of Adastran sea monster. Maybe that's why Alex is freaking out. But just as I'm about to resign myself to that fate, Marco, don't worry, I've got you. I stop fighting against the big furry arms wrapping around me as I feel Amicus kicking his legs under mine, sort of pulling me toward the island that's just a few dozen meters away now. What are you doing? Try to pull away, but Amicus keeps me in a fierce death grip, refusing to loosen up at all. By Gallon! I look up and see Amicus dumping out the basket full of food into the sightseer before throwing the basket at me. Use this! It will keep you above water! It hits me in the face before gently bobbing away in the waves. What the hell is going on? Try to pull away from Amicus one last time, but give up, leaning into his chest with a bewildered expression on my face. He kicks his feet awkwardly under mine, and before I finally feel our feet drag into the shifting sand of the water. Even then, Amicus doesn't let me go. He keeps his firm grip around my waist as he pulls me to shore, bringing us onto the little island. Are you alright? Amicus puts his paws on my shoulder, his wide eyes looking into mine, breathing heavily. Yes! What the hell just happened? I rub my nose where the basket hit me in the face, and that's when Alex's little craft pushes gently onto the sand. He hops out, running up to us. I don't know what happened, Amicus. He just jumped out. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him. Alex bows deeply, ears flat and trembling. I start to wonder if maybe there's something in the water that I wasn't supposed to come into contact with. I look at my skin, but everything seems fine. I finally look up at Amicus, trying to ignore his dick as it swings around between his legs. Amicus seems to notice at the same time and covers up his crotch with his paw, keeping the other on my shoulder. Can you just explain to me what happened? Amicus frowns at me. Well, you can't swim. You're hopeless in water. It's why I wanted you in the craft. Alex's lips tremble a bit as if about to cry. You're not born with natural swimming abilities. Whenever a primate falls into water, they're almost sure to drown. Are you sure you're okay? I'm so sorry. By the way they explain to me how primates work reminds me that they still might not consider me to be on the same intelligence level as them. It's like I don't know my own species' capabilities, that I just jumped in because I'm a stupid barbarian. It irritates me, but both of them look almost traumatized, especially Amicus. The paw not concealing his crotch is still firmly locked on my shoulder, as if worried I'm going to go off running into the water again. Guys, I can swim. I mean, it's not natural for us, but we can learn. I've known how to swim since I was a kid. They still stare back at me as if not understanding. Really? Well, yeah. Did you think I jumped out of the thing to just drown myself? Amicus lets go of my shoulders to cover his dick with both paws now. I don't know. I know you're unhappy here, so I wasn't sure. I laugh. I'm not that unhappy. I'm fine. And you know, I'm not an idiot. I thought you'd know this by now, Amicus. Things go quiet, Alex looking off to the side with his ears down, Amicus standing awkwardly and covering his crotch with both paws. So did I ruin our outing? No. I just have to remember that you're not a typical child. Now, let's try to relax and have some fun. It's the whole reason we came out here, after all. Alex still looks a bit dejected, looking off toward the sightseer. I ruined our food. I'm sorry. Alex bows again. Remember how Alex isn't really supposed to know about my intelligence, or anything about me, really. But if he's bothered by the conversation that just took place, he's not showing it. Amicus shrugs. Stop bowing, it makes me feel strange. The naked wolf ambles over to the craft as he leans over to look at the cluttered mess inside. His tail lifts and we get a view of his butt again. Alex looks away, blushing, but at this point I think I've given up on trying not to see the various naked parts of this wolf. Being in the nude seems pretty natural for him. even if he tries to hide it from us. I think we can salvage a decent meal out of this. The wine's good. Amicus lifts a large bottle of wine into the air, still not running around. Still not turning around. I, I'll sort through it, Amicus. Please, enjoy your swimming exercises in the meantime. Alex quickly moves to start gathering up the food, head down. Well, alright, and ears up, Alex. We're here to have fun. Alex puts his ears up but doesn't lift his head to look at us. Oh, right. Wolf grins at me, dipping his muzzle down at his crotch. The cats are just like you when it comes to this sort of thing. Anyway, I'll get in the water so that you won't have to keep averting your eyes. You should join me now that we both know you can swim, Marco. I start to follow, then look back at the cat. Do you need help, Alex? Alex shakes his head quickly, and I can see that he's still blushing. Go on and swim, Marco. I'll just be sunbathing anyway. There isn't much room in the sightseer for two people, and Amicus seems to be waiting for me, so I follow the wolf out toward the water. Intelligent conversation and a swimming partner. I have a pet that can do it all. Amicus shoulders me as we walk along the beach, making me stumble. Hey. I say it warningly, even though I know he's joking. You know, I have to wonder why you'd take me out here if you didn't think I could swim. Everyone enjoys the beach whether they can swim or not. The sand becomes too hot as I walk along the beach, so I have to jog in the last 10 meters or so to the wet, sighing as a wave cools my burning feet. Amicus catches up. Too hot? I suppose I should remember that you are a bit more fragile than the other species. Fragile? Well, a bit, I mean. When we fought on the ship, I had to hold back a lot. I give Amicus a shove, the wolf stumbling more than he probably would have if he wasn't covering up his junk. Whoa, hey! With that, I wade out into the shallows, the water quickly coming up to my shoulders. I stick to the shore, treading water as I watch Amicus splash around, doing a sort of lunging swim that reminds me of the butterfly stroke, just a lot more clumsy. After a few minutes, he swims up next to me. He's doggy paddling. You doing alright? I'm still unsure about you being out in the water. Hey, don't start. I know what I'm doing. Alright, but even experienced swimmers can have accidents, so let me know if you need help or anything. Amicus stands right in front of me, his fur plastered tightly against his chest. I will. Wolf shields his eyes from the sun with a paw as he looks around. Anyway, do you want to have a race around the island? We can stay in the shallows. I actually used to do it with Cass all the time as a pup. I look around the island, deciding that the distance is short enough that I can manage it. Alright, sure. Alright, Marco, but be warned, I won't go easy on you just because you're a primate. I swim past Amicus. Go. What? Hey! I hear the wolf splash noisily behind me as he tries to catch up. I do fairly well for the first half of our little race, managing to get around the backside of the island without the wolf catching up to me. I notice that this part of the island is covered in dense trees and vegetation with no beach to speak of. It's at this point that Amicus overtakes me with his big lunging strokes, breathing hard each time he comes up. I realize how hard he's trying, and I wonder if he's actually afraid of losing. It's clear there's a competitive edge to him, but I guess that makes sense if he's so determined to beat Cassius to the throne. As we come around the final bend, I fall further behind, quickly losing stamina as the muscles burn in my arms and legs. Amicus seems to notice and slows down a bit toward the end, allowing me to catch up some before he reaches the same spot we'd started at. For a moment, we both just gasp for breath in the shallows, though Amicus grins. I win. I roll my eyes and wait until I can breathe evenly again. Whatever, you got way more muscle than I do. That isn't really an advantage. Amicus still breathes heavily, and I wonder how much effort he actually put into beating me. Besides, I've got all this fur weighing me down and you don't. You know, competitive swimmers actually shave their fur down near the skin. That makes me wonder what a shaved wolf would look like. I mean, we do have that. We have exactly that. Let me just pull it up. See, we do have that. We have exactly what that would look like. Hang on. Let me also delete this. And then just share my screen. See what I mean? It's literally just shaved Legoshi. God, I just have bad stamina. Actually, you did a lot better than I thought you would. Had me worried the first few minutes. What do you call that swimming style? I don't know. I think it's just called freestyle. Amicus moves closer, his breathing finally under control. Could you teach me? To swim? Looks like you've already got that down. I mean, your style of swimming. You beat me, didn't you? Why would you want to learn my style? I say that, but I think I know what Amicus is getting at. He has a very clumsy way of swimming, sort of like he's fighting the water itself. Amicus harumphs, blowing some droplets of water from his nose. It looked effective. I'd just like to try it if you're willing to show me. I smile. Alright. The next hour, I show the wolf how to swim freestyle. At the beginning, it feels like I'm teaching a toddler how to swim. The first few tries end up with him thrashing around in the water like he's going to drown, showering me with lake water until I have to reach out and grab him to make him stop. I decide to start with the arms first, standing in the shallow and showing him how I put one arm ahead of the other in a sort of rhythm. Again, I have to stand close to the naked wolf, grabbing his big furry arms and showing him how to move them. Once he has that down, he quickly learns to add his feet into the mix, and pretty soon he's swimming back and forth, picking up speed to the point that I'd have no hope of keeping up with him. I realize then that Amicus is a very fast learner. This is so much better. Do you know any other styles? Amicus paddles happily around me. Well, I guess back floating, but no, not really. I'm not a professional swimmer. Amicus stands, water running down his furry body. Want to race again? He grins at me. I laugh. No, I'm exhausted after teaching you all of that. Oh, don't be such a pup. Or are you afraid of losing again? Amicus winks to lighten his words. I think about flicking him on the nose like he's a misbehaving dog, but I resist the urge. No, I'm just tired and I'm hungry, and if I stay out any longer, I'm probably going to get a sunburn. I remind Amicus that there's food on the beach. Reminding Amicus that there's food on the beach seems to change his mind, and he follows me into the shallows. Oh, that's right, you have no fur. Sometimes I get burned around my nose if I stay out too long. Are you alright? Feel Amicus rub a paw over my shoulders, and I shiver. Well, we'll know by tonight, but I feel alright. As we trudge onto the beach, I see Alex curled up on a blanket, his fur bright and shiny under the sun. Judging by the plates around him, he's already eaten. Amicus chuckles. Such a feline. Anyway, you'd better keep your eyes off me. I want the fur to dry before I put my undergarments back on, so I'm going to stop covering up for you. Automatically, my eyes start wandering toward the wolf before snapping back to look straight ahead. But then I start to think, I am going to be here for a while, as far as I know. Maybe I should get used to the whole nudity thing now. What are we going to do? Like I said, there's no nudity in this mod. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and if this is a normal thing for the wolves, why not get used to it? So I look. The mod works. Amicus grunts in surprise when he sees me not bothering to avoid looking his way. Wait, human! Amicus's paws snap to covering his crotch again. I smirk. What? I might as well get used to it if this is normal around here, right? I gotta say, you're acting like it isn't. Amicus pauses and then pulls his paws away from his crotch, his face flushed. You just surprised me is all. Anyway, Amicus walks stiffly up to the beach, past the sleeping Amicus while I try to keep. I did it the other way on my own. Amicus walks stiffly up the beach, past the sleeping Amicus while I try to keep up. It's kind of satisfying to see how embarrassed he is considering how much he'd been teasing me about it. And honestly, now that I've seen it, it isn't really that big of a deal at all. The wolf's cock and balls are just like a human's. Sure, maybe with a little more fur on the balls and a darker shade on the cock, but still similar. Why are we talking about his penis? Why are we talking about his genitals? Why? We reach the sightseer, and I see that Alex has laid out food in a neat little line of plates. Though some of the pastries look a bit squashed, everything seems to have survived the emergency dumping that they suffered. Amicus grabs a few large plates of quiches and what looks like fruit pastries. Meanwhile, I grab a folded blanket, the bottle of wine for Amicus, and a smaller bottle of the vegetable-tasting juice I'd had yesterday for myself. We make our way over to the shade of the trees before I roll out on a blanket and Amicus starts to tie his underwear back on. Finally, he sits down with a huff before reaching out for the wine. You sure you don't want any? He asks before guzzling some of it down. I mean, maybe at dinner or something, but I'd rather not get buzzed right now. Oh, really? I'd have to drink quite a bit more than this bottle to become inebriated. I guess that explains how he can drink so much of it for every meal. Well, you are a lot bigger. Anyway, this stuff is great. I usually pull out the cork of my own bottle before drinking down the ice cold juice. Bro, where's a hose? Just like go to like a backyard or something and drink hose water. Amicus pulls a face. Ugh, Verdi. Stuff tastes awful. Wine is so much better. Amicus immediately goes for the fruit pastries, shoving two in his mouth at the same time. Maybe you just prefer sweet things. And slow down, don't you take time to enjoy your food? Amicus frowns at me with his mouth full. I do enjoy it. That's why I eat it fast. I smile and go after one of the quiches instead. We eat in silence for a few minutes, then I remember what Cato had said earlier. When do you need to be at that thing that Cato was talking about? Combat practice? We've got at least an hour yet. And what does that involve? Oh, just striking and grapples. I'm just glad Cass isn't here to join us. I hate sparring him. Really? You told me last night he can't even compete with you. That's exactly why. He has a condition where his bones are less dense than what is normal. Makes them easy to break. Because of this, I'm more of a training dummy for him than anything. Basically, he just uses it as an excuse to punch me in the stomach. There isn't much I can do to retaliate that won't seriously injure him, so I prefer training with Cato. Didn't you tell Cassius you'd punch him yesterday? Amicus laughs. I didn't I? Well, that's why he was so offended, but now he knows not to bother you. I've learned to be gentle with him since we were pups, but my limits can only be pushed so far, especially now that I have you. Oh my god. Bullshit idea. Bullshit idea. Bullshit idea. Ah, fuck. Bullshit idea. Where's that picture of Marco? Is it under TikTok? Yeah, it's under TikTok shit. Here we go. Here we go. This is the bullshit idea. I've only had this human for a few days, but if anything happened to him, I will kill everyone in this room, then myself. You said you used to get along with him when you were pups. Yes, but I think that had more to do with him admiring me when we were younger. He used to look up to me, which was preferable to how he is now. What happened? Amicus shrugs. He grew older, then Mother died and he was always very close to her. They shared a lot in common, including their disease. Ah. Amicus pokes around the pastries before picking one up that looks to be filled with a red fruit. Then I suppose we've always been different philosophically, which would be fine if he weren't trying to take the throne from me. So, if you were next in line for the throne, how would Cassius just challenge you for it? Is that how it's supposed to work? No, not really. Cato is the one who decided to do things this way, which he can because he's the acting emperor. Cassius has been building a following amongst the rules for the past several years. Amicus shakes his head. I thought he was simply trying to solidify his chances of becoming my advisor, but his speeches and writings were so different from my father's. I did realize he was cultivating a certain persona for the emperorship, eventually, but I never thought Cato would buy into it just because of Cassius's popularity. But he did, and here we are. Amicus shoos away, warning the large fly that lands near the plate. Yeah. I thought I'd have more time anyway. A lot more time, but Father's passing was sudden, so I'm left with what I have now. What happened to him, if you don't mind me asking? To Father? His ship crashed while landing in Adastra City about 5 months ago. It's a rare thing to happen, but it does happen. I'm sorry. Well, he's with the parents now, so I'll see him again. But he should have so much more time left. We should have had so much more time left, just like Mother. How old was he? 157. I blink. He was 157? Yes. Years? Yes. Amicus looks at me confused. How long do you people live? It varies, but about 250 to 300 years. Wow. How long do your people live? Amicus looks slightly apprehensive. I don't know. 80? 100 if we're lucky. Oh. Amicus's ears fall. That's so short. Compared to you guys, yeah. Wait, how old are you? 20. How old are you? Amicus is still frowning. 23. That gives me some pause, trying to work out how much that would be in a human lifespan. Wait, so are you an adult, or Amicus seems to recover? Well, adulthood varies among species and cultures, obviously, but legal adulthood is 20, so yes, I'm considered an adult. Huh, that's about the same as humans. But the difference is that you die a lot sooner. That concerned look again. I shrug. I've grown up with the idea, so it's not all that shocking to me. Amicus seems to be thinking. Well, maybe we can do something about it. I don't like the idea of you being through a fourth of your life when you've only just reached adulthood. I frown. Well, what are you going to do about it? We aren't able to live so long naturally. We take supplements and medication that slows the aging process. Maybe we could consider the same for you. It's an interesting thought, but I don't like the idea of being a guinea pig for wolfish medication. Maybe. Let's figure out this whole Emperor thing first. Alright. Amicus picks at his claws for a while, and it looks like he wants to say something, but he doesn't and just stays quiet. Finally, just as I'm about to ask him what's wrong, he looks over at the sleeping Alex. I'll be right back. And with that, Wolf suddenly gets up and jogs over to the cat. I can't help but feel the conversation was left unfinished, but then I see Amicus get down on his paws and knees, as if sneaking up on Alex. I frown and watch as the wolf gets closer, his paws reaching out for Alex's earring. I guess the wolf wasn't being very quiet because Alex suddenly rolls over and squeals as the wolf leaps on him. Amicus, no, this is my best one. Don't mess it up. I get up. I sigh and get up, a little reluctant to leave the shade as I make my way over to the pair. Alex has rolled up into a little ball, clutching at his ear as he tries to hide the grapes. Don't you dare! Do you want to tear my ear off? I'm being gentle. If you'd stop trying to fight it, it would make this easier. No! Alex tries to roll away, then spots me. Marco, help! I sigh and watch for a bit before deciding to save the poor cat. I look for an opening, then pounce on Amicus's back, wrapping my arms around his neck and my legs around his waist, trying to throw him off balance. Oh ho ho! Not so fragile now, are we? Amicus swings me back and forth as if trying to throw me off, but not really putting any effort into it. Meanwhile, Alex scrambles out from under the wolf before turning and giving him a shove. Amicus starts to topple backwards, and for a moment I think I'm about to get crushed by this 300-pound wolf in the sand, but Amicus turns as we fall, and we end up laying sideways on the beach. Alex stands to the side, quickly dusting himself off before adjusting his earring, frowning. You know, I might as well just stop wearing this thing. There's no point if half of it is plucked by the day's end. Amicus just lays there and laughs. His laugh is infectious, so I laugh too. They're good, Alex. Maybe you should start wearing inedible berries instead. Alex huffs as he looks down his nose at us. It's a cultural staple of my people, and honestly, what you're doing is rather disrespectful, especially as a prospective emperor. Amicus waves his paw dismissively, laying flat out on his back next to me, his arms flopping over my head. Pa, you're a friend. Obviously I wouldn't do it to an actual ambassador. I am an actual ambassador, Amicus. Yes, but a friend ambassador. Alex sighs. Anyway, thank you, Marco. You should obey your master, yes, but it is also important to keep your master in check when he oversteps his bounds. Hey, don't encourage insubordination, Alex. Amicus's big paw resting above my head comes down to ruffle my hair. I realize for the first time since I was abducted that I'm at ease. Happy, even. Then Alex looks at the sky. Amicus, what time is it? Amicus suddenly sits up with a grunt, also looking toward the sun. I don't know, is it close to the 11th hour? I was asleep, so I'm not sure. I'd ask Calm, but we're outside his boundaries. Amicus sits up for a moment, then sighs. Well, I suppose we should be off, just in case. We gather up the food and blankets. Don't you guys have portable clocks or something? Amicus shrugs. We do, but usually I can just ask Calm. Wolf taps his ear. But like Alex said, his signal doesn't reach the island. Amicus is starting to look a little nervous, so we pick up the pace and pack ourselves into the sightseer. A bit more crowded now with Amicus inside. When we're halfway to the shore, Amicus asks the time and then groans. Damn it! Half past the 11th hour. The amphitheater is small compared to the massive one I'd seen in Rome. It might only be able to fit 100 people at most, though Alex tells me that the really big one is in the city center. He sits next to me on the bottom bench with the stairs between us as we watch Amicus stand alone in the center of the pit. He has his paws on his hips, looking around, watching. Oh, no. Does it say watching? Waiting. Well, I don't think he's here. Clearly. Do you want to be my sparring partner for the day, Alex? No! Alex scrunches up, one paw going up to cover his earrings as Amicus just laughs. I look around, not seeing the old wolf anywhere. Are you going to get in trouble, Amicus? Amicus shrugs, leaning one way, then the other in a sort of stretch. Probably, but Cato was always upset. He'll probably just make me train an extra hour tomorrow or something. Besides, I got most of my exercises in the lake. Amicus suddenly does a handstand, his feet poking straight up in the air, and I'm amazed that he's able to keep perfectly balanced. Alex quickly looks away as the hanging cloth of the wolf's undergarment fall upward, even if everything is covered. Well, mostly. I see the lighter colored fur that covers his front, also covering his inner thighs. Then Amicus falls backwards, keeping his paws on the ground while his feet land with a thump. Wolf's back arched, making a bridge. It's kind of impressive seeing such a thick, muscular body be so limber. That's when I notice Amicus looking directly at me from his upside-down position, watching me watch him. I quickly look away, blushing, realizing the wolf is just showing off. Amicus pushes off his paws, smoothly standing up straight. Well, I suppose we could go back to the palace since I'd need a partner to do the rest of my training. Unless... Amicus glances at me. Marco, would you like to assist me? I freeze for a moment, still feeling a bit awkward at being caught staring at his body. I know I can say no, but Alex is here, and I don't want to come off as a belligerent pet in front of him. We're still sort of pretending, after all, even though Alex probably thinks something is off about me. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. It would probably be the other way around. Alright. I get up and stand awkwardly in front of the half-naked wolf, glad that I'm at least in my robes now. Do you have combat sports? Sorry, do your people have combat sports? Yeah. Actually, there were a few where your people uplifted. Wrestling and something else where they basically just beat each other up. I can't remember the name of it, though. Amicus smiles. That sounds similar enough. This is called Pugnu, and it mostly involves punching, kicking, and grappling. The only rule are no claws, no teeth, and no going for the eyes. Or groin. Amicus smirks at me. And while sparring, we avoid striking above the neck. So, go ahead and throw some punches at me. Amicus grins and punches down, his paws out. I look over at Alex, who also watches us. Bit of a disapproving look on his face. Amicus notices. Don't mind Alex, his people are too soft for the sport. Excuse me, but we invented the grapples you use. We just grew out of it. Amicus seems to ignore the cat, circling me. Come on, don't hold back. Mostly I just want to train my reflexes. I try to shake off my timidness and move forward, throwing an awkward punch at Amicus's chest. The wolf easily slaps it away. I hope you can do better than that, Marco. I blush and put a little more effort into a quick punch at the wolf's side, which he dodges with a jump to the right. I follow him and jab at his stomach, which he blocks with an elbow. Oh, come on, you can hit harder than that. We go on for a while longer until I finally stop, huffing. Amicus comes up from his crouch. What's wrong? Tired already? I shake my head. Honestly, I just don't like throwing punches at you. Feels kind of wrong. Alex perks up. See? Marco understands. Amicus rolls his eyes. You're both soft. There's nothing wrong with a bit of sanctioned combat. In fact, I'd say it creates a more civilized... I take the opportunity to jab Amicus in the side, making the wolf grunt. Amicus turns on me with widened eyes. Oops. Amicus frowns while Alex laughs. I'll show you an oops. Yo, he's being very sus right now. Amicus smirks as he ducks in, grabbing my arms and easily pinning them behind my back. Hey! Amicus growls playfully into my ear. Ha! Now it's your turn to train. Try and get out of this. He leans heavily against me, using his weight to his advantage. It's clear I have no chance of getting out of the hold, but I try anyway, struggling and complaining. Amicus! I jump, and so does Amicus, the wolf immediately letting me go. The sudden lack of support almost causes me to faceplant before Amicus catches me and sets me back on my feet. This probably isn't the time, but I just remembered something. Let me open up like a Google Translate. Let me share my screen real quick. Where is it? Display capture. Here we go. Yeah. So get this. It literally translates to friend. His name is literally friend. The sudden lack of support almost causes me to faceplant before Amicus catches me and sets me back on my feet. I turn around and see Cato. Despite the volume and fury in his voice just moments earlier, he almost appears calm. Amicus and I stand there for a moment, breathing heavily, then Amicus bows. Good morning, Cato. I quickly follow suit, bowing low. There's a moment of silence as Cato regards us both. Afternoon, you mean? You're late. My apologies, I lost track of the time at the lake. Your pet did not remind you? Is that not one of his duties? Cato's gaze snaps in my direction, and I almost jump. I don't know what to do, so I go back to bowing, wondering if I should apologize. I have not taught him our hours yet, Cato. It's my fault. Cato watches us for a moment longer, then begins unfastening his robe. Luckily, my appointment with the praetor has been cancelled, so despite your tardiness, we may train. Cato tosses his robes aside. Move, pet. I stand there like an idiot for a moment before realizing he's talking to me. I hurry over to sit down next to Alex, but I can tell by the expression on his face that he's also a bit worried. I see we've already warmed up. Cato glances over at me before turning back to Amicus and getting into a crouch. Amicus stands awkwardly for a moment before doing the same. Yes, did you need to? I did mine while waiting for you for over half an hour, Amicus. The two big wolves start circling each other. I want to ask Alex if this is normal, but something tells me I shouldn't speak out of turn in the presence of Cato. Your brother had a very successful speech in the city today. Over 500,000 attended. Amicus seems thrown off by what Cato said, but then Cato's fist snaps out and smacks Amicus right on the nose. The wolf stumbles back, blinking and snorting as he holds his face. I wince. Didn't Amicus just tell me they didn't go for the face during training? I look at Alex questioningly, but the cat is now looking firmly at the ground between his feet, his ears down. That's double his last speech, Amicus, and it rivals your father's early days as emperor. Amicus has recovered at this point, and he's got his paws back, his teeth bared. He doesn't respond and starts circling Cato again, and this time he attacks first, throwing an elbow at Cato's face. Cato ducks and moves to the side, smacking a fist into Amicus's back, right over the kidney. Amicus lets out a pained grunt, bending sideways and stumbling before forcing himself back into position, his teeth showing now. And while you were being a pup at the lake, Cassius was touring the countryside, and even that drew thousands. Cato throws a sudden kick at Amicus's thigh, and I look away, but still hear the painful thwack of furry flesh on furry flesh. This isn't training. This is punishment. Stealing a ship and flying across the galaxy will only get you so far, Amicus. You win the people over, not me. Amicus bull rushes the old wolf, grabbing one of Cato's legs by the thigh, lifting it off the ground, while he starts throwing vicious punches into the older wolf's face. Cato seems to become dazed, stumbling on his one foot, raising his paws to protect himself. I silently root for Amicus, wanting to see him put the old man on his ass. But then Cato's paw comes around in a vicious slap that turns Amicus's head to the right. He drops Cato's leg, and that's when the old wolf wraps his arm around Amicus's waist setting his shoulder in the other wolf's stomach before actually lifting him up off the ground. I don't know exactly how much Amicus weighs, but it's probably around the same as Cato himself. And somehow, the old wolf is able to carry Amicus across the pit in a rush. Alex and I dive out of the way as Cato crushes Amicus into the stairs with a thudding crunch. I look back and see Amicus folded under Cato's shoulder, making a sound like a deflating tire as his eyes bulge. After a moment, Cato finally pulls back. Amicus curls up and rolls down the steps into the pit of the amphitheater, making a horrible groaning sound. Cato, meanwhile, straightens out his undergarments before turning to pick his robes up. Good spar, Amicus. Hope you learned something from it. I announced to the public that trials will begin at the end of this month. Remember that your pet will be involved, so be sure that he's prepared. Cato ties on his robes as he walks away, then suddenly turns as if forgetting something, addressing the still wheezing Amicus. Oh, and your sister and her guest arrived today. She requested to see you in the Great Hall as soon as our session ended. And with that, Cato stalks off, his robes billowing in the wind. I rush to Amicus's side. Amicus, are you okay? I know that the wolves are tougher than humans, but if I'd been slammed into the stairs, there's a good chance I'd never get back up. I set a hand on Amicus's back as he hugs at his middle and presses his face against the stone floor. He keeps making a strained grunting sound, and I can see a strain of drool connecting from his lips to the ground. Alex stands next to us, nervously fidgeting with his robe. Amicus? Amicus surprises me by roughly pushing my hand away. I just lost my wind. Give me a moment. Amicus turns away from me, then rolls onto his back, his paws above his head. His breathing still irregular, but at least he is breathing now. Alex clears his throat. Amicus, do you need medical attention? Amicus takes a deep breath, then lets it out slowly. No, Alex. Alright, then I should probably take my leave. I don't know when Cassius will return. Alex, looking extremely uncomfortable, bows to both of us. Amicus, Marco, thank you for the outing. It was very relaxing. He then quickly makes his exit down the stone path, disappearing through the trees. I stand awkwardly off to the side, waiting for Amicus to recover. Some ambassador friend he is. He opens one eye, looking at me. You know, you can head back to the palace as well. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. I mean, he hit you really hard. I'm a little worried. Don't be. Go back to my room. Amicus' usually cheerful mood has completely dissipated. Well, if I'm pretending to be your pet, then I guess I'll just pretend to be worried, alright? Amicus just grunts and finally gets to his feet, wincing as he does. He straightens out his undergarments, which had twisted off to the side before walking toward the same path Alex had taken. I quickly catch up, following a few steps behind the wolf. Amicus is hunched over, walking with a light limp. I feel a wave of anger for Cato. He'd been nice to me yesterday, but now I realize that isn't typical for him. I understood the lesson he was teaching in Amicus in the amphitheater, but I don't understand why it had to involve violence. Is this how the wolves normally treated each other? Fake civility with bursts of savage aggression? Was what Cato did normal? What do you mean? I mean, does he usually just beat you like that? Amicus sighs deeply. Not usually, no. Seemed a bit much. Can we not speak of this? I'm not in the mood. I go quiet and I see Amicus's ears fall flat for a bit before coming back up. We walk the rest of the way to the palace in silence. I'm sure to stay a few steps behind Amicus, wanting to give him space. I get the feeling that while he's definitely upset about what happened, he's mostly just embarrassed that I saw it. I'm going to leave off here. Holy fuck. Okay, there's not much I can think of to say, so stay safe, have a good night.